Hey guys, what's up? My name is Ashtongleckman. Today we're going to be taking a look at string sampling. So for me, after analyzing a multitude of different scores, whether it's the Da Vinci Code, Inception, The Dark Knight, Gladiator, Imitation Game, Prometheus, and really not only paying attention to recreating the musicality of it, but also recreating the production of it, I've really come to learn a lot about string sampling, and also my time studying Baroque music and stuff like that has also really helped. There's a few different tips that you guys can really pay attention to improve your string writing. Let's just get into them. One of them is voice leading, which is really important. We also have inversions, something that can really help, and something that a lot of different composers, like especially Elgar, does so extremely well, because he'll use inversions to build up to the moment where he actually uses the root chords. Another thing that's really important when it comes to having really good string sections is having well played legato, so actually playing it in very well, and understanding the scripting of that specific library and how they created it, so that therefore you can make the most out of it. And we also have the way for which samples blend together. So if you guys are using multiple different string libraries, like for example, if you're using Albion 1 from Spitfire Audio with Cinematic Studio Strings, or Cinematic Strings 2 with Metropolis Arc, you want to know how to balance those together. And even if they can balance together, because some different libraries don't go that well together, so you really have to pay attention to that. So today we're going to go ahead and break down a tiny little section from the behind the score I'm doing this week, which will of course be released on Saturday, for Hacksaw Ridge, which is composed by Rupert Gregson Williams, the amazing composer and brother of film composer Harry Gregson Williams. It's a beautiful score for a beautiful film, and so today we're going to take a look at the last little section of Okinawa Battlefield, the first track on the soundtrack, and also Pretty Corny, which is also a very beautiful track for which one of the main themes of the film is first presented. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at this little section, and I'm going to go ahead and break it down live for you guys here. We'll take a look. Here is the track. Alrighty, so there's the track. As you guys can tell, I was really trying to achieve this level of realism that was achieved on the score, of course, because it was really recorded by an orchestra. So what I ended up doing is actually layering over a John Cage 433 recording, and that really just adds that extra dimension. It actually sounds like the orchestra is being recorded in a concert hall. You know, it's just those little subtle details. And when you add that to it, you automatically begin to get the sound of an actual orchestra recording. That's something that I don't see a lot of people doing, but it's something that is so incredibly beneficial to the overall sound of the production. That's a little tip, but I'm very confident of putting it out there and letting you guys use it, and I definitely know that it'll help with the realism aspect. But of course, the realism really stems from creating very realistic arrangements like what's going on here. So the passage is, it requires a lot of attention because the harmony is so incredibly beautiful. So for the contrabasses, we're actually using Metropolis Arc 2, and it has that very rich, intense tone to it, which really melts together the whole entire string section. For the main string section, we're using Cinematic Studio Strings, just simply because of the fact that I love the legato, and I love the overall tone. It has a very filmic tone, and it sounds like strings that were recorded and using an actual orchestra. It has that level of realism that is really extraordinary. So pretty much what we have is we have this main string line, and then we have everything else sort of complementing it. And if I just play each individual section on its own, here's this violins 1. Violin 2. Viola. cello, second cello, lower strings, so as you can tell, we get that full, rich, very smooth sound with all those combined. And as you can tell, each individual layer has its own purpose, having to do with the harmony or having to do with the overall flow of the section. Each individual layer has its own purpose in the context of the entire arrangement, right? So we have our main melody in violin 1, we have our counter melodies in violin 2, we have our another piece of the harmony in the violas, the cellos as well. We're also filling in the harmonies in those. And then we have our low strings. So as you can see, the violas, the cellos, and the basses aren't doing as much as the violin 1 and the violin 2s. That's because we're using our violin 1 and violin 2 as our main sort of melody, and then we're of course harmonizing using the violas, the cellos, and the basses. And that's the importance of having, you know, first violin, second violin, viola, cello, is that you can use all of those to really fill in your harmony and really make it very, very rich. And that's one of the aspects of this specific piece that's very, very important. So if I just go ahead and play the lower string section. So the lower string section isn't doing as much. All it's really doing is filling in the harmony. And as you can see, there's a little bit of movement in there, but not too much. But then as you begin to see, the violin 2s really add in the counter melody against the main melody. And so if I just play the main melody with the strings, forgetting the counter melody, it sounds a little bit like this. Sounds nice, but it doesn't have a whole lot of movement to it, and it sounds a little static. So when we add in our violin 2s, our counter melody, and it really is all about where these notes are landing. So, you know, this is a very, this line is moving a whole lot, and it really makes all the difference in the world when the notes land on the chord, how it gets there, and that all has to do with voice leading. And voice leading is one of the essential aspects of studying Baroque music as well, and we have a Baroque masterclass series going on with Simen Christian Nielsen. You know, if you look into classical music and if you look into all that type of music, learning voice leading is very, very beneficial when it comes to film scoring. We have our main melody in strings 1, then we have our counter melody in the second violins. Then of course we have our violas, cellos, and our basses filling in the overall harmony so that our melody and our counter melody can be supported. All these different lines are played in. So this, for example, is Cinematic Studio string. So this library is known to have a little bit of like a lag issue, but I've gotten used to playing it. So here we have a fifth, and then we have the harmony being filled in up here. So as you can see, and then it's moving in a very specific fluid motion. And of course the different voices are moving in a way that makes sense. That's the real trick when it comes to string sampling, is making sure that your voices feel as though when you go from one chord to another, that they feel as though they're on one direct path and they aren't just going wherever they want to go, that they have one specific path. And that's really all about voice leading, and voice leading is very, very important. So and also blending samples. So I'd really just take a second to go through different libraries and just sort of note what libraries go together, what don't, and throughout time you'll begin to just sort of acknowledge that, and you'll begin to sort of just take that into account without even thinking about it when you're actually writing. So it's very, very important that you know what things go together, because it really speeds up the process, and it also helps with the overall sound. So just to do a little review, we have voice leading, inversions, well-played legato, and blending samples when it comes to creating very, very good, realistic string mock-ups. This Saturday we will be doing the Hacksaw Ridge live stream. I look forward to seeing you guys there. See ya!